Welcome back to Tom's Garage again. Gloomy old, rainy old Saturday morning. Well, at least it's not cold. It's about 55 degrees. Fixing to take his sweater off. Today, here, Billy Goat. This man's poor beloved Billy Goat. He was trying to use it. He turned it off to refill it or something, and it would not crank back. He put a new air filter, spark plug, everything he knew to do, but it would not do nothing for him. So I told him a couple things over the phone to try, and nothing would work. So he brought it to me, and I told him to check it out. I sprayed carb cleaner in it, and it didn't hit. It has good spark. So the only other thing it could be was compression. And I put the compression tester on it. Absolutely zero. Absolutely zero comprehension. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna figure out why it ain't got no compression. It's a flathead, so it's not an overhead valve, so same principle as an overhead valve, whether it's overhead or not. Same principles. I'll go over the 4-stroke cycle with you, try to explain that better. But the first thing I'm gonna do is just do a simple leak down test. What a leak down test does is it will simulate the combustion chamber being under compression, and it'll tell us why it has no compression and where the problem is. So first thing I'm gonna do, set the camera down here. I'm going to make sure this thing is on top dead center on the compression stroke. If it's on top dead center, not on the compression stroke, then both valves are just on the verge of wanting to open and close. And so it's gotta be on the compression stroke, that way you know both valves are completely closed. And right now I have got it on the compression stroke because I can look in that little hole right there and I can see both valves are actually closed, and the piston is very top dead. And I put this vice grip on there just to kind of hold it, because when you put all that compression, all that compressed air in there, it'll want to push the piston down, it'll ruin your test. So in case that thing wants to spin over, it'll just kind of stop right there. So let's do a leaky down test. Let's do the leaky down. We'll stick this in the spark plug hole, and then we'll hook the leak down tester to that. You ain't got to wrench this thing down real tight. It's got an O-ring on it. Just kind of grab it and make sure it's pretty snug. That's good enough. That is good enough. Now, what we'll do is take the leak down tester. If I can get it out of the box. All right, this is going to tell you how much air pressure you have coming in. And this will tell you how much air loss, how much compression loss you have. So what we'll do, we pull this down, unscrew it till it just stops. And then, get your air hose. And we'll stick the air hose to it. Okay. So what we'll do now is we'll start screwing it in. I want to screw it in until this gauge sits as close to 0 as it will. We'll just keep screwing it. You'll see the air pressure come up. There it goes. And right about 0. Okay. Then we'll hook it to that. Let me set this thing down. Ooh, look at that. I want to see this thing less than 20% would make me feel good. This motor is old. It's about 25 years old. It's a 98 model machine, and we have got some massive, massive leakage. Massive, massive leakage. You have to listen for the air escaping. You can hear it. If it was coming out the muffler, you know the exhaust valve isn't seating. But you can actually feel it and hear it coming right out of the carburetor. So we know the intake valve is not seating. And see, it comes out this intake tube. The carburetor hooks to this intake manifold, and it goes right down to the intake valve. And if it was coming, well, it wouldn't be coming out of the, well, if it was coming out of the crankcase, if you can hear it coming out of the dipstick, you know what's going past the rings. The piston rings will be wore out. Get that air compressor off for a second. Yeah, I can cut my hand over the carburetor. Okay, that tells us everything we need to know. So I'm gonna take and screw this back off till it stops. So now we know we got a bad valve. This thing has zero compression at all. It won't even give you 1 pound. So we'll stick this back in the box. Give me that back. And we're gonna pull the head off, and we're gonna put an eyeball in there and see what is going on. Anything obvious. Anything obvious. Okay, I'm gonna grab a tool here. Grab a 1/2 inch socket. I can take my channel locks off now. Vice grips. Vice grips. Okay. Spark plug wire out of the way. Let's see, I'm gonna move you right over here. And if it was a blown head gasket, you could hear it or see it coming out around where the head mounts. But now we know we have a catastrophic loss of compression. If this was an airplane, it would have crashed. Okay, there's the head, there's the head gasket. It's a little oily. And all those head bolts are the same length, so it don't matter where they go back. Oh, let's see. Grab my little flashlight. And this intake valve right there. So we know, you know, the 4-stroke cycle, an engine doesn't really start and stop on every 4-stroke cycle. You never know during what part of the cycle it's in, like a car, lawnmower, any kind of 4-stroke engine. You don't know where it's at during the cycle when you cut it off. So right now it's on top dead center. Top dead center. And this is going to be as if the spark plug just fired and shot that piston down. Okay, there's your power stroke. As it's coming back up, it's going to blow all this blown used combustion right out that exhaust valve. See how that's opening? And it's going to shoot all that stuff right out of the muffler. Okay, now that's top dead center again, but it's not on the compression stroke. What it's going to do now, just the momentum, it's going to come back again, and this intake valve is going to open, and it's going to cause suction, which is going to suck through that intake manifold, and it's going to suck the air-fuel mixture in. As it's going down, it's drawing more and more suction, and then it gets to the bottom, and that closes. And then it comes back up and compresses everything because both valves are closed. Spark plug will fire and it will ignite that air fuel mixture and just shoot that piston down again. And then it opens the exhaust, goes down, sucks air fuel mixture. So the problem is, when this thing is coming up on the compression stroke, this valve right here is not seating and it's losing all its compression through that seat. That's why when we put air to it, you can hear all that air coming out of this carburetor because it's not seating. It can't compress the mixture. That's why I say, I know it's got spark, I know it's got fuel, but it needs compression. Let me put my finger on this valve and see if it's, oh yeah, it moves. Yeah, I actually pushed it in a little bit. So I'll tell you what, man, I'm gonna pull this muffler off. We're gonna pull this breather cover off, and we're gonna expose the very end of these valve stems. We're gonna pull the valves out, because I'm gonna do a valve job anyway. We're gonna see what's going on. Maybe it just needs to be ground a little bit, because the valve clearance, these valves will stretch over the years, being pushed up and slammed back, it'll stretch that valve, and the clearance will be so thin that the camshaft and will keep it open just a little bit. So maybe we'll get lucky and find out that's all it is. Maybe we don't have a bent valve, maybe we don't have a bad valve seat. Maybe we can get away with doing a valve job and you know, correcting the clearance. So let's do that. Let me get the old camera set up. I'm gonna spin this thing around, get some light on it, pull that muffler off. I don't know what they got going on there with them studs. Looks like somebody has screwed a threaded rod into the block and just put a couple nuts on there. But we're gonna get this thing figured out real quick. Y'all hang with. Okay, let me get this muffler off and out of the way. I need to, evidently they just screwed a stud in there, put this nut on there and tightened it. And they tightened this nut on top of that nut so it wouldn't work loose. And I hope I can, well, you know, that whole stud, I don't want to unscrew these because this looks awful boogered. Like somebody has taken a hacksaw, and so we'll just unscrew the entire stud out of the block. No. I want to make sure it comes out good, because that's going into aluminum. I don't want to booger the threads or break it off in there. Seems to be coming out pretty good. Okay. That was a 1/2 inch. Now this one over here is a 7/16. There we go. There we go. There's the muffler. Some kind of little doohickey come off there. A little spacer, whatever it is. Now this thing is kind of weird, because you've got a 1/4-20 here, and then you got a 5/16 here. So somebody has drilled and retapped that. Okay. Whatever floats the boat, whatever works. Whatever helps you later in life, that's good. Now here's the air cleaner cover, and we've got a pretty good little oil leak somewhere. I bet that gasket going around there is leaking. I'm sure we have another gasket we can put on there. Okay. 3/8. Might have a little oil come out of there. Put a rag down. Yeah, you can tell this thing has an oil leak somewhere, because the dirt and dust will stick to wherever the oil is. That's why this thing is so caked. There it goes. Yeah, I believe that gasket right there is probably leaking. You can see how wet that gasket is. We'll probably clean it and make it work. Okay. Now, here is, let me lower the camera a little bit so you can see it better. Now, here is the end of the valves. You got the valves there, and they come in right there. Let me grab a flashlight. They come in right there, and you can see the the tappets, the push rods, whatever you want to call them, the cam followers, whatever it is, they will rise and hit that valve stem and push the valve a little bit. And I can tell by looking that intake valve is touching that little push rod, and it is on the compression, top dead center on compression stroke. If it wasn't, if it was on the other stroke, 180 degrees off, see how both of those valves are kind of moving? So you want it on the compression stroke. Pow, see now those valves aren't moving. So we know they're not being activated, I guess you can say. And that valve clearance in there is too tight. Those valves need to breathe, and you need to have some kind of gap in there. I'm not sure what let me hit pause. I'm gonna look up the torque specs for the head bolts, and I'm gonna look up the valve clearance, because it befuddles me right now. I have forgotten what the specs are. So let me hit pause. I'm gonna look up some info. All right. The clearance between the valve seat or the valve stem and that lifter, the intake should be between 5 and 7 thousandths. The exhaust is calling for between 7 and 9 thousandths. So I'm just going to put both of them at 7, which is perfectly fine. So right now I want to find out what it is. I can see, well, you know what it is? That valve stem is just sticky. Let me see if I can push this valve. Something is going on with this thing. I think that, or that's an awful big gap right there. That is strange. And then the exhaust valve, okay, that's pretty good. That's right at 7 thousandths, so that one's good. This one has got a huge gap right there. Something is not right. Let me spin the engine over again. Okay, there goes the intake valve opening. Now we're back on top dead center on the compression stroke, and see that is touching right there. And I bet you this intake valve is open just a little bitty bit. Yeah, you can see right down in there. I'm gonna, well, you can't really shine a light in there, but yeah, that is way open. Yeah, you can, I bet you can get a 7 thousandths feeler gauge in there. Huh. Why is it sticking? That is a good question. See, right now, that lifter is still activated. I wonder if the lifter inside this block coming from the cam is sticky, not the valve. Oh, my knuckles just popped when I pushed on that valve. I could feel the valve moving, and that valve is pushing that tappet back down. Let me stick this back in there and see if that lifter moves. Yep. Huh. I believe this valve is sticky. I do. Let's pull the intake valve. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and just pull both valves off. Pull them out. The way I like to do it, it's been a while since I've done this, on an old L-head, flathead engine. I just stick my little tool in there, and I'll show you what I did after I get these out. See, there goes that one. Let me spin it around a little bit. See, you've got a notch on this keeper. I can get it up that way and just pop it down and out. There it goes. Now we can pull the valve out. That thing is blue. Don't see nothing obvious there. Let me get the spring and the keeper out of it. See, the way that works is this valve will come in through here and it just catches. And that's what holds it. You just take a screwdriver and press it down a little bit and pop it. It'll come right out. Yep. This notch, you'll see a notch in it. That tells you that that little hole is that way. Okay. And we'll go ahead and take the exhaust valve out. There's a little notch. I'm going to go ahead and turn it that way and compress it. There we go. Get the exhaust valve out of it. And there's the exhaust valve. Same thing. I'm going to set the exhaust valve over here. So what I'm going to do now with this intake valve, just a quick little way to tell. I'm going to put it in my drill and just kind of spin it. That way I can tell if it's bent or warped. And it does not look like it's warped or bent or anything. So it looks good. Valve looks pretty good. And I think it may be just hanging up and sticking. It looks like it might be a little sticky. Carbon buildup right in there. So I'll just take it on the wire wheel and clean this valve. Yes. Almost forgot my safety glasses. Always wear your safety glasses. You don't want to have to sit there and let them dig a piece of this wire wheel out of your eyeball. That'll waste the whole evening. Give it a good brushing. Okay, that is a nice clean valve now. Nice and clean. I can't see much of a ring left around it, where it just hadn't been seating. There would be a ring around the face of this valve, which we're going to make one because we're going to do a valve job. We're going to do a valve job. And let me peek back in there. Let me see how that feels now, if it's any looser or. I believe we may have ourselves a. Yep, the intake seat has moved. I think that's what it is. This valve seat, it's tungsten. It looks like it may have moved. I believe it has. I believe that valve seat has moved. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to hammer that seat back down a little bit, because that's what it was. The seat moved. Let me grab a little punch and a hammer. I'm going to try not to hurt it, but the damage is done now, so if we can't save that little motor, we just can't. So what I'll do with the valve in there, I got the seat back down, and that's what it was. That's what it was. The valve seat moved. Yep. Sure did. Now let me put the valve back in it and see what the clearance is. We got it put back, but it might slide again. Still at top dead center. That's going to be about 8 to 9 thousandths right there, because this 7 fits. That 7 fits kind of loose. Let me find the 8 and the 9. Let me try the 8. See how barely rubbing. Try the 9 thousandths. And to me that's still kind of loose, but I can feel drag, so that's what it is. That is what it is. The valve seat moved. I don't think I've ever seen one on an L-head do that. Huh. I guess what I'm gonna do is take a little punch and go around the outside of this aluminum area and try to expand this aluminum over this tungsten right here to keep it from wanting to come back out. Yes, that's what we'll do. Now that we know the seat is hammered back down again. Yep, let me grab a little punch. Have to be very careful, because if you get too close to that seat, you're gonna block the valve from being able to seat. So I may try to, right in the middle, let me try that. Take a nice sharp punch. Nice sharp punch, and just put a couple of little divots just away from the seat. Just try to expand. Just try to expand that metal like that. Going over here. That's way too thin over there. Yeah, let me try right in here somewhere. That's not sharp enough. This punch is really sharp, so I'll go back over this little hole I punched. All I'm trying to do is expand this aluminum a little bit to keep this from wanting to pop back out. So, and we'll put one right here. on my camshaft. It seems to be seating pretty good now. Yep. Seems to be seating good. I'm gonna give that a try. You know, it's a 25-year-old machine. I ain't got a whole lot much more to do, so I figured I might try to save it for the fella. He loves his little leaf vac. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna brush off this exhaust valve. I'm just gonna lap the valves back in, and I'm not gonna do anything with the clearance because it seems pretty good. Oop, about got that finger, about got it again. And I'm gonna see what kind of leak down test results we have again. See the seat on that? It's not really uniform. So what we're gonna do, there it is. I'm gonna take some of this fine compound. That's coarse. This is the fine lapping compound. I'm gonna use this and I'm gonna lap the valves back in real quick. Won't take just a minute here. Take a screwdriver and get the lid off. See, that's all it is, kind of a oily, gritty kind of a, I'm gonna do the, get a little on your finger. I'm gonna do the exhaust valve first. Just to make sure. And when I do the intake valve, and that's gonna tell me, I can look at the ring it leaves around the seat, and that's gonna tell me if it's seating good, if it's uniform, because it's gotta have that perfect little ring all the way around it. Okay, now we got compound all the way around it. Let me grab my little suction cup. You just stick your little suction cup on there. And this was the exhaust valve, I think. No, was that the intake or exhaust valve? No, that was the intake valve. Yeah, okay, we're gonna do the intake first then. I got them mixed up, which is good. Because y'all ain't gotta watch them do the exhaust valve. We'll just do this intake valve. Make the video a little shorter. It still acts like it wants to stick a little bit. There we go. Boy, it's kind of a quiet, gloomy day. I don't hear no trains, no birds, no airplanes or nothing today. All I can hear is my ears ringing. Are y'all entertained? Now, take a rag and wipe all this stuff off there. Now, if you'll notice, it's got a beautiful little ring on. I was going to say, so the camera just quit, but if you take a look, you'll see a perfect little ring all the way around the valve seat. And it's nice and uniform. So that tells me that thing has got a good seat and a good seal. So let me wipe this off. Make sure you get all this out of there, man. It's like sandpaper going through your engine. And let me look at the valve seat real good. Yeah, we got a nice uniform ring all the way around that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and lap the exhaust valve too. I'll put the valves back in, I'll show you how I do that. Then we're gonna put the head back on it. We're gonna do another leak down test and see if that has cured our compression problem. If we have good results from the leak down, I'll go ahead and put the, put the engine back together and actually put my compression tester on it and pull start it and see what that gives us. So y'all hang with. Okay, I got the old trusty little valve spring compressor out. Stuck it in there, compressed it down. So now when we put the exhaust, we'll do the exhaust valve first. Now when you stick it in there, push it in, and then you can release the tension. I used to do it backwards. I used to spin this 180 degrees, and I could feel it, and I would just pop it. But I'm gonna do it correctly, just for y'all. And just release it. Just like that. That way the little indentation stays this direction for you. And we'll put this one in. Slide it in the tool. Oh, come out down there. Okay. Now we'll just compress it down. Oh, look out, we just lost it. Come back here, boy. Man, I ain't used this thing in years. I can usually just take a screwdriver and just do it with my fingers. Okay, now we'll stick it back in there again. Make sure she's seated. Compress it down. Take your intake valve, put it in the hole. Through there, push it in, lock it, and unscrew it. Okay, there's that. Now let me spin it and see how she's operating. To me, it just seems like something's still sticky. Let me get my 7/1000ths back out. Make sure it goes in there okay. Wow, just a big glob of dirt. It's kind of tight. Ow, I just popped all my knuckles again. Okay, that feels pretty good. So does that one. Okay. Okay. So now what we'll do, I'm gonna put the cover back on it. I'm gonna put the muffler back on it. Well, actually, I'm just gonna go ahead and put the head on it. Let's do that. Here, slide this around. Put y'all over here. Can you see it okay? Oop, there goes the bolt. Here. Head gasket looks pretty good. Make sure you get it on correctly. I mean, it's a good rule of thumb to replace this head gasket every single time you take the head off, but it'll be all right on this one, man. This thing's 25 years old. It's just gonna run as good as it will. No harm, no foul. Get all the bolts started. Okay, got that. Now I'm just gonna barely run them down until they stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I'll do it by hand. I don't know what the exact torque spec is on this. I believe it's like 18 inch-pounds or 18 foot-pound. Heck, I don't know. I just do it by feel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which one's left here? We still got one loose. I haven't hit 8 yet. Tight, tight, tight. Oh, that's the one I hadn't done yet. There it goes. All right. We'll wait to get some of this stuff out of the way. And we will run another leak down test to see if we've got compression. See if we got a leak anywhere. We'll see if that solved the problem. If we have good luck here, we'll go ahead and put it back together and fire this thing up and see how she runs. Because this thing wasn't hitting a lick. Wasn't hitting licky. Okay, we'll set her back to 0. Close to it as we can. Okay. Get back over here. Cross your fingers. Ooh, we still got a bad leak. Still coming out of the carburetor. Well, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I am going to run a compression test. Y'all hang with, I'll be right back. I'm gonna put the cover and everything back on. I'm just gonna do a simple compression test just to see if we have compression. I know we still got a lot of leakage somehow or another. Maybe there's a crack in the block near the valve seat I didn't see. Because you know I don't see that well anymore. Yeah, let's do that. Y'all hang with just a second here. Okay, I went ahead and slapped the rest of this thing back together. And I got the old compression tester here. We're going to see if we got any compression. See, the first test was absolutely 0 compression. So now we're going to see if we have improved it. I would like to see at least 90 pounds out of this thing, but being 25 years old, so let me pull this thing about 4 times. Keep your eye on the little pressure gauge. Yeah, I'd like to see somewhere between 60 and 90. That would be ideal. If we had any at all. If what I did helped at all. I'm gonna pull it about 4 times. Oh, what do we have? Yeah, we got just a little less than 60. You know, it may well run on 60. At least we got some now. That is good. That is super good. My trusty old compression tester I've had since high school. Yep. Okay. I'm gonna hit pause. I'm gonna take this thing outside after I put the spark plug back in it. We're gonna see if it'll fire and run. I'm gonna take it outside because it don't have the bagger on it, and it will blow stuff all over my shop. Yep, it's gonna come out that chute right there, and I gotta stand out of the way of it. Here, I hate working on these things and chippers and stuff like that. They're dangerous. So let me hit pause. Let me get all that, get ready to go. Hang with. All right, let's see if this thing will crank and run. sure the primer's working. Oh yeah. Put it on fast. Stand out of the way of it, girl. Well, all right, even though that thing still has a pretty good leak down, it runs good, man. Crank first pull. Valve job. Billy Goat. Get some. Y'all have yourselves a merry little gooder. Y'all thanks for watching the video, boys and girls. Love you. Love somebody. And I will catch y'all on the next one. See ya.